Hey guys, Luke here, and it's just about been a week since State of Origin 2020 finished. I did a video a couple of days ago where I talked about why New South Wales lost, but I think it's only fitting if I do another video talking about why Queensland won. So here it is. This is why Queensland won. Now feel free in the comment section below to agree or disagree or bring up some more points that I miss out in here. But I've actually wrote down a couple of points that I want to talk about, so we're going to be doing that. But like I said, if there's anything that I missed or anything you disagree about, just leave in the comment section below. We can have a bit of a chat there. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is that I feel like the Queensland spirit was always there and that they always believed. Now, in the New South Wales video, I talked about there being a lack of passion, and I just felt like the New South Wales side just had a lack of passion throughout it, going from the coach to the players. Whereas I feel like the Queensland side always had that passion, that always had that belief. And I think it all goes back to an interview Daly Cherry Evans did before the first game, where he said, yes, we actually do believe. Like, this isn't for show. Like, we actually do believe that we're going to win this series. Now, I remember looking at that and thinking, oh, is he just playing up for the cameras, or does he actually believe it? Now, I'm pretty sure he actually believed it. I think it's evident with how they played. It looked like right from the first moment of the series, you could see that they were playing to win. They weren't just going to play. They weren't just there to make up the numbers. They were definitely playing to win. They're playing hard. And look, the fact that they got game one, maybe if they had lost game one, the belief might have been drained out of them very, very quickly. But the fact that they won game one after going into that game confident, I feel like it sort of justified their confidence, and it sort of made them believe even more. And now, while they ended up losing game two, I think it was very evident after game two when we saw both of the sheds. We've talked about in the grand finals and that sort of stuff. Do you want your teams to be all hyped up and all serious, or do you want them to be relaxed? Now I think there's a bit of a fine line. You kind of want a middle ground. You don't want your team being so amped, like kind of like the Panthers in the grand final. Saw them walking out and they looked so amped, like way over the top amped. And they were so relaxed as well. So they kind of had the similar attitude to Queensland, whereas in the shed, looked like they were having a good time, mucking around. There was all the talk of them being so relaxed and just being a fun place to be. But then we saw them getting super amped going out, and they were sort of rallying off each other, all that sort of stuff. But that can only get you so far. Whereas Queensland, I feel like they had kind of a controlled version of that. Look, they went into it, they were relaxed by the looks of things. Looks like they're having a good time. But they also know what they had to do. They knew the job that was in front of them. I feel like the difference between them and Penrith as well is also Penrith kind of had that cockiness, whereas Queensland never had that cockiness. Like, there was no reason for Queensland to be cocky. They lost two in a row. They literally had nothing to lose. There was nothing for them to lose at this point. If they ended up going on to lose that game, lose that series, whatever it was kind of expected. Now, like in every single Origin game in this series, the New South Wales side were heavy favourites. So realistically, if New South Wales won, what's that on Queensland? Oh yeah, Queensland, well, they picked the worst side ever. So, it makes sense that they would lose. So who really cares, right? So I think that sort of gave a lot of those youngsters, not the confidence, but gave them the freedom to go into the series and not really have too much on their plate. And although it was an Origin series, I think it also helped that it didn't feel like an Origin series going into it. I know going into sort of game three and that, it kind of felt more like an Origin series, but going into the actual series itself, it didn't really feel like an Origin series. And I feel like that really benefited Queensland. I feel like it was probably the best thing for them. For New South Wales, I feel like it works completely the opposite for them. I feel like if New South Wales had played it in the middle of the season, maybe they would have been more pumped up, more amped up for it. But yeah, this was my point with the Panthers stuff too, is that, yeah, Penrith was so amped up. But look, they were sort of cocky, whereas Queensland, like I said, didn't have any reason to be cocky because they were the underdogs. So they were able to sort of play into the underdog status, and then they were kind of able to get themselves amped up enough. Meanwhile, New South Wales was so sort of lax and not really into it. That's what it felt like to me going into the first game. I feel like New South Wales were kind of like, yeah, well, it's a sure thing. We'll just go in. We'll go in cruise control and we'll get this win. And then Queensland came out. They came out firing and raring to go after having a fun camp. It was just like good vibes around the Queensland camp. That's what it seemed to me. And then they've come out. They've executed in game one. So obviously it's just going to continue those good vibes. Even after the game two, this is what my point as well, was that we saw in the sheds, we saw Wayne Bennett. They're having a beer. They're laughing. And this is coming from Wayne Bennett, not exactly renowned to be a bit of a jokester or having a laugh and that sort of stuff. So when he does have a laugh, you know something's up. You know something's up. And there was something up. Queensland, super confident, went into game three. I think at that point, after game two, they knew they had New South Wales where they wanted them. In game one, they were underdogs. In game 2, I feel like a lot of people were like, well, look, it's going, New South Wales are either going to shit the bed or they're going to come out and absolutely crush them and then go on and crush them in game 3. That's what I thought was going to happen. But I feel like Queensland, they knew that New South Wales would once again get too cocky and get too confident and get too comfortable is probably the right word. Just New South Wales is very comfortable. Queensland let it happen too. And I think they did it on purpose. They let New South Wales get comfortable and they let New South Wales beat them. And they let New South Wales beat themselves. I think that was the best way to beat New South Wales. I mean, realistically, you look at both of the sides, I feel like talent-wise, skill-wise, I feel like the New South Wales side was much better. Like, if you were putting them onto a video game and you're looking at all their overalls, I feel like New South Wales would absolutely destroy Queensland. There'd be a couple players who would probably even match up against the New South Wales side. But I think they knew that the hunger wasn't quite there for New South Wales. Probably especially after game 1, they probably saw it and went, yeah, no, this isn't the same. This isn't the same New South Wales side. The hunger's just not there. The passion's just not there. So we can really just take advantage of that. And that's exactly what they did. And weirdly enough, I actually think Queensland getting beat in a bit of a blowout game in game 2, I feel like it might have been the best thing for them. Like I said, in the sense that it got New South Wales comfortable again. Had it been a scrappy win, New South Wales just got the win, they would have went into game 3 going, oh shit, Queensland, they're on. Like, I know they beat us game 1, but game 2, that was close. So, like, we played our best and we just got them. Whereas going into game 3, they're like, well, we just destroyed them in game 2. We're just going to destroy them again, and it's just not what happened. But yeah, I do think that it obviously wasn't a tactic to probably go out there and lose on purpose by that much. But I feel like in a way it did definitely help, and I think that also added to their relaxation because they just once again emphasised that this was the worst side in Queensland history. So again, like if Queensland lost the series, well, who cares? Like it was expected. Why wouldn't they lose? They're the worst team in history, according to all of the media. So yeah, I feel like that it definitely did help them. But in terms of the actual game itself, I feel like I've talked about like psychological stuff and all that. But what actually happened on the field is I feel like Queensland had a very good tactic, and I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think they let New South Wales beat themselves. New South Wales, I feel like they were just looking for those blowout wins every single game, and they weren't willing to get in the dogfights. Now, in game 3, I mean, there's been a lot of people talking about how New South Wales' defence is being so good, but look, let's be real. Why were they defending so much? They were defending because they were playing low percentage football. They were trying to score from their own end. They were dropping the ball a lot, giving away stupid penalties. It was sort of self-inflicted. Not even sort of, 100% was self-inflicted. Now look, I'll say the refereeing I don't think was fantastic in game 3, but that's just always going to happen. Teams are always going to get favoured in the home game of State of Origin. It's just how it is. New South Wales probably got favoured in game 2 to a degree. But yeah, I just feel like Queensland had the perfect game plan. They go out there, just play smart footy, get through their sets, and don't try and do anything too stupid. Now, in game 3, we could have actually seen a blowout victory to Queensland with the amount of drop balls. Val Holmes dropping them. Some were poor passes, some were okay passes, some of them like he should have taken, obviously. But Queensland definitely were on top of New South Wales the whole game, and there's a lot of people crediting New South Wales for the defence, but it was just more the execution was off for Queensland. But that's what's going to happen when the side isn't based on skill. Like I know the media did say that this was the worst side in Queensland history, but in terms of skill, this isn't your Cronks and Slaters and Smiths and all those, even your Darius Boyds and that. Like, it's definitely not a caliber of side like that, so they're not going to be as slick, and New South Wales did defend actually pretty well, but yeah, they're not going to have the firepower to just blow New South Wales off the park. I think their game plan was perfect. They just hang in the game, annoy New South Wales try and force their hand because Queensland get the lead, and then New South Wales end up just throwing it away, and that's exactly what they did. Queensland let them do it. They didn't really overplay their hand, and then they let the brilliance of Cameron Munster, I think he really got them home. If you take out Cameron Munster, we saw what happened in game 2. Just the attack, like, you can only defend so much. In Queensland, they tried hard, but when you've got no firepower in attack, you can't really do too much. And I feel like Cameron Munster was sort of the sole bit of firepower in the Queensland attack, and he was enough to single-handedly carry the whole attack of Queensland. I feel like he was that important. We know he's a fantastic player. I've always thought Cameron Munster was like a really, really good player, but I wasn't sure if he was up to that sort of superstar level. But I feel like this Origin series really cemented it. Now, I know it seems stupid to say after he's won premiership after premiership with the Storm, but after small thinking, yeah, he looks good in a Storm system. We'll see him outside of it. But I think this Origin series really showed that he's so capable of stepping up to that superstar status, and I think the Melbourne Storm, they're going to be completely fine with Cameron Smith gone. Now, another thing that I want to touch on is also the contrast in fitting players in from Queensland to New South Wales. Now, for New South Wales, it seemed like they just went, all right, we want this player, we want this player, we want this player. We don't really care where they play for club footy. We'll just fit them in the side. And they've gone, yep, we'll pick up best 17 players rather than the best player in each position. Whereas Queensland, I feel like, went for that tactic. They went for, well, not even a tactic, but their selection criteria was that they had to play that position. And I think it fit really, really well for them. Look, there could have been plenty of times where they chucked in Ben Hunt and they would have thrown him in there on the bench, but they gave Harry Grant an opportunity. And it's like they weren't forcing players into the side just for the sake of it. And I think that was very, very important. Like that, they tried Cohen Hess in game 1, didn't work out. And look, they looked at it and they went, well, you know, he's got Origin experience, but he didn't quite do the job. We'll get rid of him. We'll chuck in someone else. Now, New South Wales kind of did that to an extent, but you look at guys like Harry Grant and that, I feel like what I would have thought would have happened was that Ben Hunt would have went into the starting side and then Harry Grant onto the bench. But no, they stuck solid with Jake Friend. They went with their tactic, and like I said, they stuck solid with it. They want to play like a nice consistent brand of footy, just defend well, attack pretty sound, not give away too many errors and too many penalties, and just let New South Wales beat themselves. And Jake Friend, I think, was very important to that in terms of just getting their defence right, getting their line speed right. I thought in general their defence in terms of line speed in game 1 and game 3, I thought it was very, very crucial in shutting down New South Wales. They didn't really give them too much space. We saw in game 2, when Cody Walker and Nathan Cleary, a few of those guys had space, they took advantage of it brilliantly. So they were able to shut that down in game 1 and game 2. And yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with guys like Jay Friend, probably go uncredited, but it's just more so my point with this one is that they didn't try and force players in just for the sake of it, or just because we want to give this guy a debut, or, oh, well, this guy was pretty good, I mean, we'll just chuck him in. No, like the guys who were in there, they actually had a role in the side, and I think that was evident with the fact that when Bronco Lee was ruled out, I think it was Bronco Lee, whoever was ruled out, and then Kurt Capewell came in, they didn't immediately go, oh, well, he was originally in, we'll just chuck him out. And it's like, no, they had a winning side. It defended well. Kurt Capewell played really well. They stuck with him. And look, he didn't have the best of the games in game 2, but he sort of cemented his spot in the side because of that. And then finally in game 3, like when he kind of got exposed in game 2, they adjusted perfectly. They added him into the back row. They brought in the Lee cousins, and I think one of them was through injury in terms of Xavier Coates was out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of the guys, they really earned their spot in the side, especially after game 1. They played brilliantly, and it wasn't just like, oh, well, we'll chuck these players in, we'll see how they go. Well, Ben Honey's a pretty big name, we've got to have him in the side. No, like they went with what they thought was the actual best side, whereas New South Wales were like, well, Jack Whiten, he's a big name, got to chuck him in. Oh, Gutherson, we need to find a spot for him, we'll chuck him in. Just things like that, and I think that was an important thing too. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on why Queensland won. Obviously, they played absolutely brilliant. They played out of their skin, essentially. And like I said, I thought Cameron Munster really, really stepped up to the plate, and I thought he kind of carried them to a degree. But the rest of the side did play very, very sound, and they were very, very consistent, and that's exactly what New South Wales didn't have, just no consistency. They were either playing amazing or playing like total shit, where Queensland just had a solid base throughout the whole series, and it worked out well for them in the end, as obviously they picked up the series win. But leave in the comment section below, is there anything that I missed? Is there anything that you disagree with, or do you agree with? Like I said, leave in the comment section below. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and give the video a like if you did enjoy the video, and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. And also stay tuned for more content that I'm going to be doing like this, talking about the NRL, doing some Rugby League Live 4 stuff. And yeah, so make sure you turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my content going forward. Also, guys, my social media is on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. It's also Mr. Luke for Facebook. And my Snapchat's also Mr. Luke and YT. Same what's on the screen as well. My Twitch is Mr. Luke Streams. It's in the description. I feel like just check out the description. Everything is there. I've got links to it and everything. But yeah, guys, that's probably the last sort of video I do on Origin for season 2020. I think I said that after New South Wales one, but I think I've covered everything. I only was really doing this one, seeing as the New South Wales one got a lot of traction, so I thought, well, if I'm going to do a New South Wales one, I need to do a Queensland one as well, especially considering they won this series. So yeah, guys, that's probably going to be the wrap up for Origin 2020. I mean, it is pretty fitting. We're nearly at the end of 2020, so it feels weird to even be talking about Origin at this point. But yeah, guys, I'm going to end this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you for the next one. Bye, guys.